Oh, hell no! You aim for that 7-pin and let it rip! Ah! Oh.
Before superhero franchises and streaming algorithms, the 1980s were a lawless frontier of comedy where studios greenlit the weird, the wild, and the wonderfully absurd. But beneath these blockbusters lived a secret layer of comedy so bizarre, so bold, so brilliantly strange that most people have never heard of them. In this video, we're counting down 10 wild 80s comedies that disappeared from the cultural conversation but deserve a second look. And trust me, the last one is so insane, it could never be made today. Number 10. Modern Girls, 1986. The story begins the way every great night in the 80s did, with bad decisions, too much hairspray, and a Duran Duran cassette stuck in the car stereo. Modern Girls follows 3 roommates, Margot, Kelly, and Cece, who live together in a tiny Los Angeles apartment that looks like a fashion explosion. They've got no real plans, no money, and no direction, just the hunger for a perfect night out. The plan is simple: go clubbing, dance until dawn, and forget that real life exists. But from the first minute, everything that can go wrong does. Kelly accidentally steals her boss's car while trying to pick up her paycheck. Cece, who works as a radio DJ, bails halfway through her shift to chase a pop star she's obsessed with. And Margot, the quiet one, gets dragged along, lipstick smudged, spirit unwilling, wondering why every night has to end in chaos. They hit the first club, the Rhythm Room, a neon jungle pulsing with fog machines, sequins, and questionable dance moves. A synth remix of Obsession blares as the girls dive into a crowd of spandex and sweat. Then, in classic 80s fashion, Margot's date gets ditched for a British new wave musician who looks like he fell out of an MTV video. From there, the night turns into a domino effect of disasters. They end up at a sketchy Hollywood afterparty where no one knows whose house it actually is. Cece gets mistaken for a pop idol, dragged on stage, and forced to perform in front of hundreds. Kelly tries to sneak away with her borrowed car, only to get stuck in a police checkpoint. And Margot, the responsible one, ends up bailing them all out of trouble again. By the time dawn hits, the 3 of them are standing on a rooftop in downtown LA, watching the sunrise with smeared eyeliner, empty wallets, and no regrets. It's not about how perfect the night was, it's that they made it through it together. Modern Girls is drenched in 1980s energy, bright lights, fast edits, and that bittersweet feeling that youth doesn't last forever. But beneath the glitter and chaos, it's about female friendship. Flawed, loyal, messy, and real. Virginia Madsen, Cynthia Gibb, and Daphne Zuniga deliver it with heart, bouncing off each other like real friends trying to make sense of a crazy world. A snapshot of a time when one wild night could feel like forever. Number 9. The Couch Trip, 1988. If you've ever wondered what would happen if a mental patient became a celebrity therapist on live radio, the answer is The Couch Trip. And yes, it's exactly as insane as it sounds. Dan Aykroyd plays John Burns, a con artist and psychiatric patient locked away in an Illinois asylum. He's smart, manipulative, and bored out of his mind. One day, he hacks into a hospital computer system using the most hilariously fake 80s interface you've ever seen and finds an opportunity: a famous radio psychiatrist named Dr. Doc. Baird is taking a leave of absence, and the producers are desperate to find a replacement. Burns makes one phone call pretending to be Baird, charms the secretary, and before anyone realizes what's happening, he's on a plane to Los Angeles, straight out of the asylum and into fame. When he walks into the radio studio for his first show, nobody notices anything's wrong. He looks confident, talks fast, and has that Aykroyd charisma that makes you believe anything. Then the phone lines light up. Listeners pour their hearts out about their failed marriages, existential crises, and midlife meltdowns, and Burns responds not with therapy, but brutal honesty. "Your wife doesn't hate you," he tells one caller. "She just likes the dog better." Depression? That's just guilt with better lighting. The audience loves it. Ratings explode overnight. Suddenly, this escaped mental patient is the hottest voice in self-help radio. But the higher he climbs, the more it spirals. The real Dr. Baird sees his career stolen live on TV and sets out to expose the fraud. Meanwhile, a scheming producer, played by Walter Matthau, decides to ride the chaos for as long as it brings in money. By the third act, it's full madness. Therapy conventions turn into riots, riots, Burns crashes a live broadcast wearing sunglasses and a priest's collar, and a spontaneous street parade follows him down Sunset Boulevard like he's some kind of spiritual messiah. Behind the scenes, it was just as chaotic. The studio hated the rough cut, the jokes were too strange for test audiences, and Dan Aykroyd's improvisations left editors buried in footage. The director, Michael Ritchie, reportedly called it the weirdest comedy I've ever made, and I made The Candidate. And yet, through all that insanity, The Couch Trip somehow captures something true. How easily people mistake charisma for wisdom, and how fame can turn madness into a brand. It's wild, messy, and absolutely 80s. A reminder that not every forgotten comedy was bad. Some were just too strange to survive in a decade that moved faster than anyone could keep up. Now, let's talk about where the real history of wild comedies begins. It's the film every modern movie director secretly owes a debt to, even if they've never admitted it. A movie so ahead of its time that critics dismissed it as too strange, only for its ideas to become standard decades later. Skipping number 8 would be like skipping the missing puzzle piece that explains why modern comedies looks the way it does now. Because what you're about to see isn't just a movie, it's the spark that lit a fuse. Number 8, Just One of the Guys, 1985. Before She's the Man, before Mulan's modern retellings, there was Just One of the Guys, the 1985 gender-bending high school comedy that dared to ask, what if a teenage girl disguised herself as a boy to prove a point and accidentally became one of the guys? Terry Griffith, played by Joyce Heiser, is a smart, confident high school journalist. She's got the hair, the looks, the grades, but when her teacher passes her over for a big journalism contest, claiming her writing isn't masculine enough, she snaps. So what does she do? She cuts her hair, borrows her brother's clothes, tapes down her chest, and enrolls at a rival high school as Terry the New Guy. The setup alone is pure 80s gold, but the execution, absolute chaos. From the moment Terry steps into the boys' locker room, she realizes she's in over her head. She's surrounded by football players, bad cologne, and the kind of conversations that make her question every life choice. Her first few days are a disaster. She can't sit right, talk right, or survive lunch without blowing her cover. But then she meets Rick, the quiet, awkward kid who everyone bullies. Terry takes him under her wing, gives him a makeover, teaches him confidence, and somehow becomes his best friend. And that's where it gets complicated, because Rick doesn't know Terry's secret, and Terry's falling for him. It all builds toward one of the most iconic 80s movie finales ever shot. Prom night, Rick finds out the truth. Terry confesses her love, and in a moment that defined teenage shock humor for an entire generation, she literally reveals her secret right there in the middle of the street. No CGI, no buildup, just raw VHS-era boldness. Behind the scenes, Joyce Heiser later said that scene was both empowering and terrifying. She wanted the reveal to mean something, not just shock value, but a statement. That underneath all the gender disguises and teen movie chaos, she just wanted to be taken seriously. The film became a minor cult hit, but got buried under bigger John Hughes movies like 16 Candles and The Breakfast Club. Still, decades later, it stands out as one of the most gutsy comedies of its era, one that used absurdity to say something real. But if you thought a teenage girl pretending to be a boy was bold, wait until you meet the next guy. A fast-talking reporter who solves crimes in disguises, outsmarts cops, and somehow manages to offend half of Louisiana in the process. A film so absurd it turned satire into survival and gave Chevy Chase one last great 80s meltdown. Number 7, Fletch Lives, 1989. By the late 80s, Hollywood had fallen in love with sequels, and in 1989, they decided to bring back one of the decade's smoothest investigative journalists, Irwin M. Fletcher, better known as Fletch. The result? Fletch Lives, a Southern fried follow-up where Chevy Chase takes his sarcastic alter ego to Louisiana and straight into total lunacy. The story kicks off when Fletch inherits a mansion from his late aunt, a rundown plantation in the middle of nowhere. Thinking it's a chance to start fresh, he heads south, expecting peace and quiet. Instead, he finds Bible-thumping televangelists, corporate conspiracies, and a dead body in his bed before breakfast. Within minutes, Fletch is knee-deep in swamp water, dodging bullets and wearing more disguises than an undercover magician. He poses as a lawyer, a maid, and at one point, a televangelist preacher named Claude Henry Smoot, delivering sermons that sound like Elvis on a caffeine high. And somehow, it all works. The film leans hard into Chevy Chase's signature improv. Most of his lines were unscripted, and the crew often had to bite their lips to avoid ruining takes with laughter. One particularly infamous scene where Fletch gets cornered by a corrupt sheriff turns into a 5-minute ramble about gator justice and fried chicken that Chase made up entirely on the spot. But what gives Fletch Lives its real charm is its tone. It's goofy, Southern Gothic, and cartoonish. One minute it's Scooby-Doo, the next it's Gone with the Wind on hallucinogens. There's a murder mystery, a secret toxic waste plot, and a televangelist empire built on greed. Every scene feels like a different movie. But Chase ties it all together with that smug grin and endless deadpan one-liners. Critics didn't get it. They said it was too absurd and not as clever as the first. But audiences at the time didn't care. They showed up for Chevy being Chevy. And that's exactly what they got. It's the kind of sequel that shouldn't work, but somehow does. Powered purely by charm, chaos, and the kind of unfiltered confidence that only the 80s could produce. But if you think Louisiana Chaos was wild, wait until you see what happens when the next movie takes something as simple and relatable as moving to a new home and turns it into a full-blown psychological meltdown. Because coming up next is a film where every decision goes wrong, every plan collapses, and one man, pushed past the breaking point, slowly transforms a normal family relocation into the most unhinged chain reaction ever put on camera. A comedy that starts with a moving truck and ends with total emotional annihilation. Number 6. Moving 1988. If there was ever a movie that captured the pure, unfiltered chaos of middle-class frustration, it's Moving. A comedy so manic that it feels like watching someone's nervous breakdown play out in real time, with Richard Pryor at the wheel. Arlo Pear, played by Pryor, is an overworked engineer living a comfortable life in New Jersey. He's got a wife who keeps the house running, 2 teenage kids with too many opinions, and a job that's just stable enough to keep him sane. But when he gets offered a promotion, his entire world collapses into slapstick madness. The decision to move sounds simple, but in Moving, nothing is simple. The house sale falls apart, the moving company turns out to be a pack of thieves, and his new neighbors in Idaho include a gun-obsessed lunatic and a man who mows his lawn at 3 a.m. It's the kind of plot where every single thing that can go wrong does. There's the unforgettable car chase involving a U-Haul truck with no brakes. A scene where the family's belongings get swapped with someone else's, including a life-sized moose head, and a running gag about Arlo's old home being purchased by a nudist who keeps answering the door in the buff. Through it all, Pryor plays Arlo with a mix of righteous anger and comedic exhaustion. The kind of man who's 5 seconds away from screaming into the void but too polite to actually do it. The supporting cast makes the madness even richer. Dana Carvey plays the world's most incompetent mover, delivering boxes upside down and labeling everything fragile, including the dog. Randy Quaid appears as a deranged neighbor who introduces himself by firing a shotgun into the air to celebrate new beginnings. What makes Moving special isn't just the chaos, it's the humanity beneath it. Pryor gives one of his last great comedic performances here, balancing absurdity with raw frustration. It's a film about how hard it is to hold your life together when the world seems determined to dismantle it piece by piece. Bringing us to the next film. A film doesn't just show chaos, it manufactures it. It drops 2 nightlife hustlers into the middle of the Cold War and gives them one impossible mission they don't even realize they're part of. Number 5. The Experts, 1989. Long before John Travolta reinvented himself in Pulp Fiction, he starred in one of the strangest comedies of the 80s, The Experts. A film so bizarre, it feels like someone mashed together The Truman Show and Red Dawn, then accidentally made it funny. The setup is pure Cold War insanity. Somewhere deep in the Soviet Union, a secret government project is underway. Their goal? Build a fake American town to train Russian spies how to blend in once they're deployed to the US. There's just one problem. Their version of America looks like it stopped evolving around 1959. Enter Travis and Wendell, 2 clueless New York club promoters, played by John Travolta and Arie Gross. The KGB, desperate to make their fake town feel more authentic, kidnaps the duo and flies them across the world, tricking them into believing they've been hired to open a new nightclub in Nebraska. What follows is a perfect storm of fish out of water absurdity. The guys start teaching the locals about real America, including how to dance to new wave, flirt, and drink bad coffee. Except those locals are actually undercover Russian agents pretending to be American. It's a never-ending hall of mirrors where everyone's lying to everyone, and somehow it's hilarious. There's a fantastic sequence where Travolta teaches a room full of Soviet spies how to vibe like real Americans. He plays Duran Duran on a cassette player, struts across the floor, and yells, "Confidence. People. We invented cool." Another standout scene shows him arguing with a Soviet general over whether Budweiser counts as fine American cuisine. It's ridiculous, sharp, and strangely charming. Behind the camera, the production was a nightmare. Studio executives had no idea how to market it. Even the poster looked confused, showing Travolta holding a martini in one hand and a globe in the other, like someone pasted together two different films. But watching it today, the experts feels prophetic. It satirized fake media, cultural stereotypes, and propaganda long before it became part of everyday life. And despite its commercial flop, it marked a turning point for Travolta. It's where he met his future wife, Kelly Preston, who plays the Soviet instructor who slowly falls for him. Number 4. Brain Donors, 1989. If chaos could take human form, it would look like brain donors. This forgotten gem from the late 80s, originally intended as a spiritual successor to the Marx Brothers, is a tornado of slapstick, wordplay, and manic energy that never lets up for even a second. The story revolves around Roland Flackpfizer, played by John Turturro, a fast-talking, ambulance-chasing lawyer with a moral compass so broken it could point anywhere. He teams up with 2 other con men to scam a wealthy widow who's funding a ballet company. Their plan? Take control of the foundation, run it into the ground, and walk away rich. But things, naturally, go off the rails in the first 10 minutes. The trio barges into high society galas, sabotages rehearsals, and accidentally turns a classical ballet performance into a slapstick demolition derby. There's an unforgettable sequence where a swan costume catches fire mid-performance, while Turturro, dressed as an usher, tries to smother the flames with popcorn. What makes Brain Donors stand out isn't just the speed of the humor, it's the commitment. Turturro delivers his lines like his mouth's trying to outrun his brain. Every scene feels like it's seconds away from collapsing, yet somehow the timing stays perfect. It's physical comedy done with the precision of a stunt show, falling pianos, mistaken identities, runaway cars, and a courtroom finale that ends in total destruction. Behind the scenes, this movie had everything stacked against it. It was filmed under the working title Lame Ducks, only to be renamed Brain Donors at the last second by the studio, who then barely promoted it. Paramount dumped it into limited release, where it was instantly overshadowed by Ghostbusters 2 and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. But buried underneath that failure was something magical, a genuine attempt to revive old-school screwball comedy for a modern audience. And Turturro's unhinged performance is a time capsule of what comedy looked like before irony took over. Taking us over to the next movie, this film isn't just funny, it's historic. It's the crossroads where 2 cinematic worlds accidentally collided, the dark, violent underbelly of mob cinema and the bright, candy-coated absurdity of 80s comedy. This is the only movie on this entire list that secretly connects to one of the most important crime films ever made. Not spiritually, not thematically, literally written under the same roof, by the same family, at the same time, as a masterpiece that changed cinema forever. Number 3, My Blue Heaven, 1989. Technically released in 1990, My Blue Heaven was conceived, filmed, and written in the late 80s, and it feels every bit like one. Steve Martin stars as Vincent Antonelli, a flamboyant, loud-mouthed New York mobster who's relocated to a quiet California suburb after snitching on his old crew. Picture it, a man in sharkskin suits, gold chains, and white loafers trying to blend in among PTA moms and Little League dads. It's a culture clash so ridiculous that it practically writes itself. From the moment Vincent steps off the plane, he treats suburbia like it's his personal empire. He bribes traffic cops, teaches old ladies blackjack, and starts an illegal bookie operation behind a supermarket. He throws parties so loud that sprinklers go off, and buys a Cadillac the color of bubblegum just to fit in. When his assigned FBI handler, Barney Coopersmith, played with perfect deadpan by Rick Moranis, shows up to keep him in check, the two form one of the strangest buddy duos of the decade. The chemistry between Martin and Moranis is comedic gold. One's all swagger and chaos, the other's uptight and allergic to risk. There's a hysterical scene where Vincent tries to teach Barney how to act Italian, complete with hand gestures, slang, and a lecture on how to walk into a room like you own the air. And later, in a grocery store, Vincent spots a rival mobster in the cereal aisle, hides behind a pyramid of frosted flakes, and hisses, "Don't move, he's got coupons." But buried beneath the absurdity is a strangely sweet story. Vincent slowly begins to enjoy his new life, mowing lawns, making friends, even falling for his neighborhood librarian. Yet he can't stop being himself. Every small victory is followed by another ridiculous scheme, another accidental crime. Behind the scenes, this film has an incredible legacy. It was based on her husband Nicholas Pileggi's research for Wise Guy, which became Goodfellas. That means both films, Goodfellas and My Blue Heaven, were written in the same house, about the same idea, from two totally different tones. One dark and violent, the other light and absurd. Together, they're a bizarre yin and yang of mafia storytelling. Number 2, Ruthless People, 1986. It's rare for a movie to make you root for literally no one, but somehow Ruthless People pulls it off. The plot kicks off with Sam Stone, a sleazy millionaire who's planning to murder his wife Barbara, Bette Midler, so he can run off with his mistress and her family fortune. But before he gets the chance, someone else kidnaps her first. And that's where it gets hilariously dark. The kidnappers, a broke, idealistic couple named Ken and Sandy, think they're striking a blow against corporate greed. They demand ransom money. Sam, instead of panicking, celebrates. He pours champagne and laughs, thrilled that someone else just did his dirty work. When the ransom call comes in, he snarls into the phone, "You'll never get a dime. Do whatever you want with her," and hangs up. Eventually, the plan backfires spectacularly. Barbara, trapped in a dingy basement, goes full monster, screaming, cursing, and making her captors regret every life choice. Then, slowly, something bizarre happens. Sandy feels sorry for her. Ken starts liking her, and Barbara, realizing her husband's not coming to save her, befriends them, loses weight, gets confident, and becomes the film's real hero. By the third act, the kidnappers and the kidnapped are allies, the cheaters are panicking, and the movie transforms into a hurricane of misdirection, greed, and poetic justice. The iconic climax takes place during a ransom exchange gone wrong. Guns, police, secret tapes, fake diamonds, and one perfectly timed car explosion. When the smoke clears, everyone's gotten what they deserve, except Barbara, who drives away with a smile, blasting pop music as her husband is hauled away in handcuffs. Behind the scenes, Ruthless People was directed by the Zucker brothers, and this was their most daring shift into dark satire. Number 1. The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, Across the Eighth Dimension, 1984. Nowhere else but the 80s could a movie like Buckaroo Banzai exist. A sci-fi comedy, rock concert, kung fu adventure, and existential crisis all rolled into one. Peter Weller plays Dr. Buckaroo Banzai, a neurosurgeon, particle physicist, rock star, and part-time superhero. He leads a band called the Hong Kong Cavaliers, a team of scientists who double as musicians and occasionally save the universe between gigs. One day, Buckaroo successfully drives his experimental jet car through a mountain, and that's when everything goes to hell. From another dimension, alien creatures called lectroids escape into our world, led by the psychotic doctor, Emilio Lizardo, played by John Lithgow in what might be the most gloriously unhinged performance of his entire career. Lizardo thinks he's a messiah. The aliens think he's a clown. The government thinks Buckaroo's insane. And somewhere in between, the fate of reality itself depends on a rock star with a laser gun. Every scene in this movie feels like it's on the edge of collapse. There's a jet car chase through the desert, a brain surgery performed to synth-pop music, and a nightclub scene where Buckaroo stops mid-song to deliver a heartfelt monologue to the crowd. Wherever you go, there you are. It's nonsense. It's genius. It's everything the 80s stood for. The supporting cast is a dream lineup of future icons. Jeff Goldblum in a cowboy outfit named New Jersey, Ellen Barkin as a tragic nightclub singer, and Christopher Lloyd as an alien henchman trying to blend in at the DMV. Behind the camera, director W.D. Richter didn't just make a movie, he tried to build a universe. There were plans for sequels, comic books, even a Buckaroo Banzai breakfast cereal. But the marketing failed spectacularly. The studio had no idea how to sell a movie that looked like Indiana Jones on acid, so they dumped it in late summer with a poster that explained nothing. If you enjoyed the trip, like, share, and subscribe to Vintaverse for more forgotten films, hidden stories, and cinematic chaos from the past. Because in this universe, nostalgia never dies.